Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
Doing good, pretty good. Thank you. Thank you for having us today.
No worries, man. No worries. Hey, your name's Harley. Where are you from, Harley?
I'm originally from New Jersey, but right now I live in Florida.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Where in Florida?
Spring Hill, a couple minutes from Tampa.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I I spend a fair amount of time. Well, yeah, I say not a fair amount of time, but I go to Florida about once a year for business. We spend a week. The big trade show in Orlando, and
Oh, that's great. Good to know.
we
All
have
right.
a lot of professional athletes that we work with live down in Orlando. So big scene down there.
Definitely, yeah. Sure is.
Well, great. Hey, go ahead and you're the first one here. I know we started a little bit early, but go ahead and put your name and where you're at and what you're interested in. Go ahead and put that into the chat. And as people start, we're going to kind of collect that so everyone can sort of find the chat so they know where to put their questions. How's that sound?
Excellent. Perfect.
So, tell me what you're interested in.
Yeah, sure. I'm pretty much I come from art, like an art background,
Okay,
traditional and digital right now, which led for me to do sneakers back in 2000. I think probably like 2011. I got into fashion. Especially just growing up, having Jordans, having Nikes.
sure.
I wasn't. I guess you could say I couldn't afford these when I was younger. So later on when you're working and you're older, you get to afford these sneakers and just the nostalgia of it, pretty much.
Yeah, right.
Yes, which led to me kind of like knowing how to start a company, and so I started reading books like Phil Knight. Everybody knows this book,
Yeah,
Shoe Dog.
sure.
Yeah, great book. Just recently saw the movie too. It's awesome. The Air movie.
Yeah, great movie.
Yeah,
Great movie. In
yeah.
fact,
So
the
yeah, yeah. So I guess that you could say 2011. I've always been into fashion as well. So I wanted to start my own business. I want to know what it takes. I also want to fail to it. I want to learn from and also as a designer and learning how to brand how to do logos and kind of with the art background, I put that into my business. So right now you can say I'm in a development phase
sure. Okay.
of doing my sneakers. So I'm right now working with a Portugal company.
Oh, okay.
So
Interesting.
yeah, so I'm a little confused where from there should I, how to after the pre-production phase, like where should I go? So I guess that's why I'm here asking you these questions. And also, I purchased the book back in I think it was like a couple years ago, I think
Okay.
3 years ago. The book. So it's been really helpful, I could say.
Awesome. That's good. I'm glad. That's we wrote the book to help folks just like you, and then piled on. Five more books after that, or four more books after that. So
Yes. Yeah.
great, great. Yeah. Well, okay. That's cool. That's this the programs we put together. Are for to help people, folks just like you, right? Because it's like where to next, right? So you have a sample, right? You made it in Portugal. Nice.
Yeah, I have a sample that I designed myself. The first, like like the tab packs. Also, I kind of did a little bit of 3D, but this is all like me learning, all trails, errors and learning from 3D how to do 3D. So took a couple of years to learn and send those samples with 3D because it's different from just having like a flat
Of course, of course.
drawing. With that you give them more like 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 more details like, oh, okay, this is how it looks from the back, from from a top view. So they have that, and right now they're working off that. So it's been taking a while. That's what's one of my questions, what I'm here for. It's been, I guess, because the shoe it is a little bit complex. Like it's definitely, it has, it's a detail.
Right.
So it's taking about right now with the manufacturers. It's been like a year and 6 months already.
Oh,
So
oh
that's
no.
one big question. Like, how long does it take? Is it just because of the complexity story of the shoe that has taken so long? Is so I'm a little confused, but I do keep in communications with them. They have been sending me like images as well. It's just been taking a while.
Oh man, yeah, 6 months. That that's way too long. Your dreams.
A year and 6 months.
Yeah,
Yeah, a year and six
dreams
months.
die in that amount of time, and also, hey, the
Right. Yes.
trends change, right? So you probably even change your mind 4 times if it takes a year and a half. Oh, well, okay, so yeah, that is uncharacteristically too long, and either they're busy or they don't understand it or they don't have the capability to make it, right? And I know, of course, COVID has been a challenge and in those types of things,
Correct.
but generally, when you're doing pattern development with a factory that's fully engaged, I mean, I would expect to see the first one back in your hand with sample material in 6 weeks, not a year and a half, right? I mean, and then
Right.
in 6 weeks, you should be able to get a temporary model of the outsole, right? So if I don't know if you're designing with using some of their equipment, right? They have a open mold for the last and outsole, and that's another thing. But generally, and actually here this is a little bit about what I do uh, when we help people with startups, right? So I have a business partner who basically is in Vietnam and China right now. Actually, it's hard to be in both countries at the same time. Just was in Vietnam and in China, working on projects, and it basically, um, you know, when we take and basically, so what I do is I help people like you get ready, and when you're ready, then okay, we'll introduce a manufacturing partner, and that's kind of, again, my goal is to help folks like you make sure that everything's in tip top shape, so when you go to the factory, your documentation is right, and they can basically make what you want, right? And also help find the right factory for you, because if you're not in the right factory, they maybe have a hard time delivering what you want, and again, without seeing your design, and actually, hey, later on, if you want to show me what you're up to, we can do a sideline conversation, and I
Absolutely.
can,
Yes.
and I'd take a look at it. But generally, when we're doing a big development cycle, and where even if you've got 10 or 15 different patterns spread amongst a half a dozen factories, you'd expect to see the first pattern made in about a week, right? Even if it's just the artwork, right? And then 6 weeks is enough time to do an outsole drawing, to do a 3D model, to make a temporary casting, and to go into the local market or go into the warehouse and try to find color correct or nearly color correct materials to get you one shoe. So if we were working with you, I would say, yeah, 6 8 weeks to get you a complete shoe that you could photograph or take to an investor, or at least to qualify your design decision. Now, of course, if you have a lot of changes back and forth to the pattern, or if you have complicated molding or something like that, then of course it can take more time. But yeah, a year and a half, I mean,
Yeah.
a year and a half should get you from drawing to well into production. And we've done
Okay.
projects from blank piece of paper to production in less than a year.
Oh wow. Right.
So
That's good to know.
yeah, so but hey, every country has their own style of doing things. I mean,
Sure.
we are only working with Chinese or Vietnamese manufacturers, because that's where big athletic, kind of basketball sneaker, that's where it's made, right?
Right.
Not that the Italians and the
Right.
Europeans can't do that, but where does Nike make Air Jordan?
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
Asian countries.
yeah. So that's that. Can I ask you?
Oh, so you could.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, just want to say, just to get so you can get like a general idea of the shoe. It's a lifestyle shoe, so it's definitely a designer shoe. It has leather, but it's built in that sneaker kind of format.
Okay, okay.
Um, that's why. So I'm wondering, maybe that's one of the reasons that it's taken so long, just because it's not like they're offering me their outsoles. This is a design from scratch, pretty much.
Right. Okay.
So
Yeah. Hey. Yeah.
that's why.
I'd like to. Hey. Let's. We'll take a look at the design, and we can talk about it a little bit more. Hello, Ratna. Raina. How do you pronounce your name?
It's Ratna. It
Ratna.
rhymes with Robotna.
I love it. You know, my name's actually Waleed, and everyone gets it wrong unless you're from Egypt or the Middle East. So that's why I go by Wade because I grew up in Michigan. Okay, Ratna, I like that. Hello, Jose. Pleased to meet you. So, hey, folks, go ahead and if you can find the chat window, put your name, put where you're from, and if you could just put a one word or two word like, "Hey, I'm a designer. I want to or a brand builder." Just go ahead, put that into the chat, and we can just that way everybody can find the chat window on Zoom. That way we could sort of get everyone figure out how to use the chat. Um, we actually have a lot more people registered, but hey, it's okay if we've got 3, 4 people. I love that too. It's a what we'll do is we'll give folks. Oh, Los Angeles, awesome. Okay, just over the fence. Okay, awesome. Where are you from, Jose? Okay. Yeah, let's give people a few more minutes to get signed up. But yeah, I'm here in San Diego. I actually grew up in Michigan and went to the University of Michigan, but that was many years ago. Scott Peterson, hello. I know Scott Peterson. He's a sales rep, though. What is the name Ratna? What is that? Where's that from? What's the nationality of that?
It's a Sanskrit name. My mom was very
Ah,
interested in yoga meditation when I was growing up, so I have a name from India.
perfect. Okay, hey, there you go. All right. All right. Hey, Jose, where are you from?
Hello, Motawi. I'm from Costa Rica.
Oh, awesome,
Uh,
awesome,
Thank you.
awesome.
I'm not a designer. I haven't made shoes yet. I'm just an enthusiast.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Hey, I mean, the material we put together is basically for anyone who's interested, right? If you don't know anything about the business, then How Shoes Are Made is an awesome place to start. If you want to dig deeper, then pattern making or the material guide or how to start your own shoe business, those are all great. Actually, yeah, I mean, if you've seen all those things, um, all those books are kind of a great place to really get started, right? Um, and it's a little bit of kind of we created these materials to be kind of if it was your first year going to work in a shoe company, that this is the stuff you'd learn, right? Hello, Scott. How are you? Oh, I can't hear you. Let's see. Can we unmute you? Let's see.
How's that?
That's perfect. Where are you from, Scott?
Well, this is Scott's computer.
Oh.
Place. I'm in his place in Idaho.
Hey, Idaho's good.
I'm from Mapleton, and we're Mondragon saddle makers.
All right. All right.
Mondragon saddle makers.
Okay. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's familiar. I've seen you. You bought a book or something on Etsy. Maybe that name is familiar to me. Or you?
I bought a last and
Okay.
something else.
All right. But you're up in Idaho. Okay.
We just came up here to mow his lawns
Oh.
and just to get away. And tomorrow we head back to Mapleton.
All right.
Take a break from the shop.
Yeah. Hey, take a break, man. Yeah. Actually, I was just on vacation back in Michigan. Actually, my son goes to school in Idaho, so I've spent a fair amount of time up in Idaho. But
Where does he go to school?
he goes to Boise State.
Oh no,
All right. So
they're the enemy.
yeah.
We're BYU fans.
Oh, hey man, it's all good. It's all good. All right, so just quickly, hey, if you can't get here by 6:06, then you're going to miss out. So maybe you've seen my bio on the website, but I'm just going to take 2 minutes and tell you a little bit about me. Um, I've been in the business for about 30 years. I started in the early 90s. I graduated from the University of Michigan with a degree in industrial design, which is it's more of an art degree, not an engineering degree, but it's problem solving through creativity. And of course, you learn how to draw and solve problems and listen to people. And I started out I did a footwear project in school, and then basically moved out to San Francisco because my brother was in software and got a job designing sports bags, which is not your dream job, of course, but whilst I honed my skills and learned to draw, I got hired on as a shoe designer, and from there, I basically um, became a footwear developer, became a product manager, became a business manager, became a category manager, became a development manager, lots of different things, and worked in lots of different footwear categories. And part of it is I've had an amazing adventure, and I've literally traveled around the world making shoes. Whether it's to Taiwan, to Korea, to Vietnam, not so fun over there. China, I've been to China about 50 times in the past 20 years. Lived over there for a year, and then also when you're in the business, of course, you're not just making the stuff. People are going to ask you to sell it or go meet with big customers. So I've been lucky enough to have trips to all over Europe, to Australia, to Austria, to Germany, to France, all over the place. Spent time in Florida, of course. That's where some of the big shows are. So, but I've just had a really fun, quite an adventure traveling the world making shoes. So that's why I want to share that with folks like you, because if you can get into the business, even if it's just your own project or work for a big company, or even, if you work for a small company, you have to do everything, which means you can do the design work in your office and then go to China. And then if someone wants you to go to Europe to try to sell it, that's the benefit of working for a smaller brand. When I say smaller brand, maybe, tens of millions versus hundreds of millions, right? When the bigger the company gets, the smaller your job gets, right? So if you can work for a smaller company, then you get to do lots of crazy things. And generally, I just like to make cool stuff, right? And whether as a developer to help a young designer make their crazy idea come true, that's a lot of fun, right? Or take those crazy ideas and figure out how to make money, right? And market it and sell it. So there's so many interesting things you can do in footwear. Um, and that sort of led me to what I'm doing now, which is helping folks like you who are trying to get started or have any kind of big dreams or small dreams, right, to get into the footwear business. And right now, in this time, it's different than it's been in my entire footwear career. Where if you have a dream, it doesn't take $1 million, right, to get started, right? And the materials are available, the information is available. If you want to hand make them in your garage or make a small production run, you can do that now. You don't have to be a gigantic company. And this is where a lot of the people I've worked with over the past few years, I mean, if you've seen our book, How to Start Your Own Shoe Company, we have sort of a case study of two different brands, right? And we wrote the book, they were imaginary brands. But here we're sort of 5 or 6 years later, we've helped over a dozen different brands with their projects. And one of the things that I've learned is that if you're trying to do something unique, then there's a place for you, right? If you just want to try to outdo Air Jordan, then good luck, right? But if you want to make something special, or you have a special reason why, Nike and Adidas only go after big problems that require big solutions. But if you have a unique design or a unique market or a unique twist on a original concept, then a small brand can survive. So that's why I'm here to help you folks. And please, hello, Mike. Welcome. So go ahead and you know what, we don't have many of us, so I say you can unmute and we'll just start. I'm going to start in the top corner and say, Harley, go ahead, man. What can we help you with?
Yes, just like we were speaking before everybody came in, I'm a sneaker designer originally from New Jersey. Right now, I live in Florida. I'm in my pre-production phase.
Okay.
I am working with a Portugal company, like I was mentioning.
Yep.
So my next step I guess my question to you was, why was it taking so long for them to, to communicate with, not to communicate, but just to get an actual sample made.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm stuck right now. And also after that, I want to know after that, where does the marketing or how does the shoe when you get a sample get tested or
Okay.
showcased?
All right. So these are great questions. I'll jump in. So okay, when you get a sample made, right? The factory will do their best, and their goal is to make shoes that hold together, right? If they make it per your design, then if they're a if they've been in fact if they've been in business for a long time, whether they're in Portugal or Spain or China, they actually know pretty well how to make a shoe. Now, you do have to be a little bit worried sometimes with some factories in China where they might make something that, you know, could be a little bit rough sometimes. But that's where, if you sample the shoe in your size, you can go and wear it and try it, see if it's fit for purpose, right? Um, um, and that's actually where, if you're making a performance shoe, that's where, and I've worked on folks making soccer shoes or a guy making fishing shoes. You got to find someone to use it, and that's a little bit where, hey, it can be a little bit expensive to get those handmade samples, right? But if you need to get 3 or 4 pairs and get them in the hands of people, and this is also a real challenge because you've made one size, like, right? It's when you're opening your own equipment, it's really difficult to say, okay, and it's almost, if you're the target market, then make it in your size. Unless you're a size 14, then don't do that because it'll never be in proportion. I'm a size 12. As a designer, I never got to wear my shoes until the production process was basically over, right? Because, in development, the size 13 or 12, it doesn't look right. You have to basically go with a 9, right? But I've worked with companies where the owner is 12 and we're making 12, and knowing that if the 12 looks good, that if the 12 looks good, then the 9 should look pretty good too. So um, okay, so when your shoe is in your hands, the factory, they can't really confirm it for you. It really is on to you whether you say that this is good or not, right? And that's a little bit where, if you're not experienced, it can be really difficult. And that's where, um, having an experienced footwear person take a look at it, even if you have to take it to a shoe store or whatever, somebody in the business. Hey, you know me now. If you want to send it to me and take a look at it, I'll take a look at it, right? I mean, and there's of course all kinds of tests you can ask for, in the development, right? One of the important things is the bond strong enough to the outsole, right? And you can say, can you do a bonding test? And most factories will have the procedure to basically cut a strip out of the sidewall and just pull the rubber and the leather apart, and then you'll know if it's 4 kgs per square centimeter, then you're good. If it's less than that, then there's a chance it could fall apart, right? But then again, that's when you get a shoe in your hands, and again, if you're not experienced, it can be a little bit difficult. Um, I don't want to pitch all of our materials. It sounds like a broken record, but we have a course on quality control, and it literally is how you get a shoe. And when we talk about quality control, it's not just at the end of the assembly line; it's in the development phase. When you get the shoe in front of you, what is it? What does good quality look like? So if you want to listen to me talk about that for 3 hours, then you can do it. But and it's part of it is, and that was actually one of the very first things that I learned in the footwear business was my first job. The first thing we did is we went out to the mall, and we stood inside of a finish line, and the guy started showing me, look at this Nike, look at this Adidas, look at this Asics. Does that look like a good shoe? Yeah, it looks awesome. And the guy's like, no, that shoe sucks. And went on to explain why, right? Is the thread, is the midsole wrinkled, is the tongue bunched up, right? So all these little things that you got to train your eye to know whether the shoe is good or not. Um, Our book, How to Spot Fake Shoes, talks about that, but we also have a whole course in quality control that the goal of that is for you to kind of to ruin you, because you might be a footwear fan, but once you look a little closer, you'll never look at shoes the same way again. And I remember that day being like, oh, I always thought, Nike shoes were always perfect, right? And then when you sit down and you look at one and you're like, oh, yeah, they're still made by human beings and they're not perfect. So, but okay, so to your point of like, when is the shoe ready? I mean, part of it is to you, right? But then again, there are some, wear testing is a good ideal, fit testing, and then just examining it for its own quality. And this is also where a big brand will order a dozen pairs and they'll have it tested, whether it fits correctly and then whether you can get more people wearing it. Now, for a small brand, it's on to you to sort of make that qualification, right? Unless you have a professional available to you that can help you with those things, and that's one of the services that we offer people too. Okay, does that help?
Definitely.
Okay, Rodney, you took off. Just I was going to ask you a question. Okay, Scott, you're next. Oh, Rodney, you're back. Okay, go ahead, Rodney. Let's.
I'm just
Oh,
plugging in so I don't lose power.
no, yeah. Hey, good idea. Go ahead.
Yeah.
What can we help you with today?
So I've been working as a costume fabricator, like a specialty costume fabricator in movies and
Awesome.
TV and commercials. So I make creature stuff usually, and I have been taking an online course of traditional shoemaking, and I enjoy it very much. I'm still at the very beginning, but I'm wanting to combine my weird creaturey ideas with something that's actually ergonomic and sturdy and
Right.
slim together for a 2-week deadline.
That's really cool. So these are movie prop, right?
Well, no, I mean I'm wanting to make bona fide shoes.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I do make, like I worked on The Masked Singer, making some of that stuff, and Where the
Cool.
Wild Things Are was one of my early ones.
Oh, nice.
So
Amazing. That's
yeah,
cool.
so like I come from from that world of making things for people to wear, and trying to make sure they're safe and secure and sturdy.
Right.
And this has just been something I've wanted to do for a while, and I have been, slowly, incrementally. I mean, I've done a lot of designs by just taping up the last.
Yeah. Okay.
In Procreate, drawing on the taped up last, and then in Procreate doing colorways and stuff like that for it. I'm in the process of sewing some sampley kind of looking things. I'm still working on uppers. But I don't really know how the shoe industry works in terms of, a freelance designer kind of person wanting to connect with a larger entity and saying, hey, I have a finished sample that I've made and it's good quality.
Right. Let's make it.
Go from here.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a fantastic question. And that's like the how do I break into the business question, right?
Yeah, it is.
And I mean, I could tell you a little bit. My story was I was in soft goods, right? I had a little bit of a background with how things are sewn together, and I was always interested in shoes. And I just did, I just drew, and actually even quit my old job. And I had a little bit of money, and I was staying in a place rent free. So I just drew shoes pretty much every day for 6 months, and just had a stack, right? And this was almost pre-digital camera day, right? And actually taking pictures of it with a camera, and then finally getting into be able to do computer. And this is in the days where we were still mailing out, $100 color photocopy portfolio to people to hopefully get to snag it, right? But basically nowadays you've got an amazing opportunity to between photograph and website and PDF to make yourself a big portfolio to present your work in the best way possible, right? And because of all these great digital tools, right? You already know you're using Procreate to design shoes, that you get to present your shoes in an even in environment, whether it's just you can do your outdoor shoe and put it in an outdoor scene, right? And you can, and also these really nice 3D tools that people use. So that's what a shoe company is really going to look for. They're actually, I was going to say, they don't care if you make it yourself. That's not really their interest because they've got a whole team of people that's their job, right? Right, to make it.
That's more just where my
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah,
than
exactly.
maker.
Yeah, I came from it was instantly thrown into a you draw it, we'll make it kind of business, right? So, and that's where, if you're a freelancer, um, freelance product development, that's one thing, but generally, if you want to crack in that way, it's almost like you just have to have really beautiful drawings that solve a unique problem and to have style, right? And my first thing too is to really, you know go on, if whatever style of shoe you're designing, right, is to go on to Zappos, or if you're into sneakers or whatever, go on to StockX, and they have beautiful high res pictures of all the side profiles directly side on, so that you can draw a shoe in perfect proportion. And then once you sort of have an ideal proportion, you can actually sex it up a little bit, right? Because when you look at someone's rendering, the toe is never real. It comes down a little bit and goes up a little bit extra, but just to make it look sleek and beautiful, right? And that's a little bit where your presentation abilities really count, right? And if you have, um, actually, I'm glad you asked this question because we're right now working on, it's a book is probably about 4 years late, but just a book on how to design shoes, which I know everything that we do is about footwear design, but more of the mental exercise of thinking about the profile of the shoe. Yeah, you got it. Okay. So yeah, thank you. But thinking about, if you can close your eyes and imagine, is this shoe puffy? Is this shoe sleek? When you look at the cross sections of those cut shoes, right? When you see those, how do they take the last, right? Which is generally idealized, it's normalized. I mean, it's not sleek and beautiful, right? But how you design the shoe over that, adding a little extra in front of the toe and adjusting the top line of the shoe, that's where you can make that profile that looks beautiful. So anyways, back to, for a designer trying to break in, if you can, present a problem, right? Whether it's modern outdoor shoe or running shoe or whatever, and do a unique twist and present it well, and but also, if somebody inside a shoe company could look at it and see, yeah, that's a really interesting solution, and actually they've drawn it um, proportionate so that it doesn't look like a weird fantasy, then then they'll take you seriously, right? And that's a little bit where I say to when you're getting ready to do production, if you send a highly stylized drawing that's totally out of proportion, the pattern maker is going to massacre it, right? Because they're just going to make it fit the last. And if you start with a design that fits the last beautifully, or you've decided, okay, like those new Nike running shoes where they have a really unique profile because the outsole has that big thing sticking off the back. That's okay, right? They've figured out a way to generate that profile, right? The tongue is really low and the outsole sticks out the back. Okay, that's a real engineering way to make that unique profile, and it has a purpose. So I guess that's my take on it. Because again, I've been in the shoe business for a lot of years, and have I ever sat in my garage and made a pair of shoes that I thought looked amazing? No. The ones that you make in your garage are okay, but you know that's a whole nother challenge. Drawing a beautiful proportioned shoe is half the battle. All right. Okay, Scott. Now you are also interested in making shoes, and you're a real leather worker, right? You have real leather talent. What can we do for you? What's it? What do you? What's it? What do you have on your mind?
Well, first, my name's Al.
Oh, Al. Sorry. Damn it, Scott. Okay.
This is his computer, Scott Peterson. So this is a Zoom account, I guess. But I mean, my experience, I'm retired, and when my son went to college for a year, he says, "Dad, I don't want to go.
I said, "We got to do something, man." He says, "Why don't we open up a shop again?" Like, because I used to make saddles before they were born, and I started making saddles when I was 10.
Wow.
And I worked at a shop. Then I started making saddles at 11 for years. And then I went to high school in Tucson, went to college in Utah, and then just got back into making saddles after I traveled for years and years, speaking all over the country. And so he said, "Dad, let's do a saddle shop. Let's open up a saddle shop." I said, "Well, I don't want to make saddles anymore, really. I mean, I will, but it's kind of brutal work for an older man.
Right.
And all the wet leather, and it gets to my skin, and stamping and carving gets to my fingers and my elbows. So I was like, yeah, your dad's too old, man. But we did. I opened up, and word got out, and I got orders, and yeah, I went up in price. And I still bought, and blessed that way. But we went to a boutique with some wallets, and these ladies said, "Al, we love your wallets, but can you make this purse?" It was a tote.
Right.
"Can you make this purse, Al?" Like, "Okay, I can make that purse in my sleep." I mean, if you can make a saddle, you can make almost anything.
Right. Including shoes, right? Okay. So,
Well, we hope.
okay. So, all right.
And so, anyway, what I want to know in the shoe business is more access to different styles of lasts.
Okay.
I have access to as many cowboy boot lasts, which is what I want to do, is make some cowboy boots. And then I have access to the Munson hiking boot last.
Okay.
And because that's what Lisa Sorrell sells those, if you know who that is.
Yeah, sure. Yep,
Right?
yep.
Rotten nose. And so I talk to her all the time about boots and shoes and stuff. And then I have a supplier of mine that really wants me to make boots for him.
Okay.
He wants to open up a boots store, but he wants me to make them.
Uh-huh.
I've never even made a boot.
Right.
He goes, "Yeah, but I've seen your saddles. I think you can make a boot." I said, "Well, thanks, but and I feel confident. I've sewed since I was tiny,
Yeah.
and I've sewed a lot of things. And anyway, I just want to have access to more lasts, because I see so many shoes out there that are boots that I really like, and I want to make that boot.
Yeah. All right. So,
that boot. I just don't want to make Munson hiking boots. I like it, but there's a lot of other better lasts, and without rebuilding the last, or shaping it, I'd rather start with the last.
Yeah.
I can do Munson too. I want to.
Okay, so you've hit the nail on the head here, and this is the challenge, right? Because really, you've got to start with the last, because that really sets everything, right? If that's wrong, then you are wrong. So, and of course, that is the secret sauce, right? When someone
you look at that creosote gentleman from Missouri and his boots, and those are beautiful.
Okay, well, so I'll tell you what happens when someone comes, and this is we're talking sport shoes in particular. If somebody says, "Hey, Wade, I want to do a new running shoe, and I really love the way the Solomon shoe fits," I would take that shoe, take it to the last factory, and say, "Make a last that, fits this shoe," and they do that all day long.
Where are these last factories?
Well, in the United States, there's a company called Jones and Vining. And they're in Boston, and they will make you lasts. There's a supplier that I've used. They're in Leon, Mexico. It's called El Arbor. Leon, yep. The company is called El Arbor, and they have probably thousands of different designs for lasts. And they're a little bit, yeah. they're a little bit difficult to deal with. I mean, I don't speak Spanish. Sounds like you may, right? That that they would be easier for you to work with. But if you go online, and you'll see they have like hundreds of different, and they will ship you a few pairs of an individual style.
Yeah, I'll look for that.
Um,
And Jones and Vining.
yeah, Jones and Vining, they're more, they've been making lasts in Massachusetts for about 200 years, probably, right? That is like the Cadillac, right? Um, and they I haven't worked with them in a long time because usually I'm always on the Chinese side where it's just like, hey, here's the shoe, go make the last, or hey, do you have a last that fits this, right? Um, the last that I have came from El Arbor. The first one came, right, and then okay, they're quite expensive, and if you're going to buy in bulk, then go ahead and you can get them from China, right? But for onesie twosies, try El Arbor, check them out. They have a whole ton of stuff. They're in Leon. I think you could probably get them to your house for 65 or $70 a piece, maybe. You know, but you just have to check it out and see. They, like I said, have a huge catalog of various ones. Um, yeah,
You know, we're just a three-man shop.
yeah, yeah. I would try them. Actually, the ones that the Sorel, that gal, that's where she gets some of hers from.
Oh, it's big. Now that you say that, because all of them have Mexico stickers on
Oh yeah, I mean, the Leon is the shoemaking capital of Mexico, and they make all different types of shoes. Um, you know, the sort of casual sport shoe knockoff, that you can find all over in every small town in Mexico. They're all made in Leon. Um,
them.
uh,
And then Shaheen is right across the street. Shaheen Cannery.
yeah. So
We
the,
get some leather from American Leather Direct, and their whole store is Shaheen.
yeah, I work with a bootmaker in El Paso. His name is Tomas Arditi. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He makes you could look up his boots. He makes like the $14,000 palladium coated cowboy boots, real fancy stuff. Um, and he's got a Tomas Arditi, and yeah, you can see he's got a website full of crazy boots. He's the kind of guy you could call up and tell him what you want to do. He'll talk your ear off about it. He's a real bootmaker like that. So, um, but yeah, I mean that's finding the last is the challenge. And if you sort of get one that you like and you modify it a little bit, if you're making really high end, expensive custom boots, then you're gonna make a last for each customer, right? This fellow Tomas Arditi, he has a collection of lasts that he has for his main sort of off the shelf, but he makes boots for like Marilyn Manson and Ozzy Osbourne and those kind of crazy people. So he will go to you, measure your foot, and make a boot for you, but it's going to cost you $10,000 or whatever. So
Yeah.
real fancy stuff. But and he the sneakers, the outsoles that we sell and the last he buys those and he makes $600 alligator sneakers out of them. There's a business, there's a market for that. Crazy stuff,
Yeah, I see it here.
crazy stuff. Okay, Jose, how's it going in Costa Rica? What can we do for you?
Good, very very hot right now. So yeah, as I was saying, yeah, I'm just an enthusiast of sneakers. So the thing is that I don't know where to start. I like very much to run.
Yeah,
So I was thinking in running shoes, but I really don't know what is better. Like just design the shoes and send the idea to China, or trying to do it myself. So
it
that was my
really, the great question. It really depends on what your goal is. If you want to create your own business, then yeah, do a design and try to have it made. Now, if you're in Costa Rica, you have access to footwear markets in South America, right? Because when I sit here in San Diego and say, oh yeah, I would just get it made in China because that's where the business is. But I know for a fact that the shoe business in South America is a little bit protectionist, right? So you can't. I don't know. I can't remember if it's Argentina or Chile where you can't import shoes. You have to make them there. So so you can see. I can't. I can't remember which one of those countries is, but Vans basically makes their shoes in country because they don't allow import, right? So all of a sudden you have Vans that are made in Vietnam, Vans that were made in their little factory in Anaheim, and also Vans that are made in Argentina, right? So there is more footwear production really going on in your I don't know about Costa Rica in particular, but in South America for sure.
Brazil
Or
is that right?
sorry,
Brazil.
yeah, yeah, of course, yes, absolutely. Oh
Uh,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sorry. What am I forgetting? Brazil is a huge export market, and a lot of it too is just because of the leather market in Brazil and
Motawi,
Argentina.
what if there is an option or a chance that I can find a sole for a running shoes that is that I can buy it and make just my fabric design.
Sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's look. Yeah, I was gonna say, look around. I mean, I know in China, of course, yes, you can buy that, right? Can you buy one pair or five pairs? They're gonna want you to buy a couple hundred pairs,
Fine.
but
Yeah.
but I mean, this is where if you have access to Etsy or some other service like that, where you can find onesie twosies of these things. I mean, actually, for a running shoe, what the interesting thing is, this the classic running shoe, right? And let me show you what I mean here. Um, let me all right. All right, so this kind of green screen. Sorry,
Yeah,
let
it's
me.
like the Cortez Nike.
Yeah, exactly. So if you see this kind of shoe, right,
Uh-huh.
where the bottom is actually just a flat piece of rubber,
Uh-huh.
and this piece of EVA here is they cut the outline, right, the profile, and then they profile it. So
Uh-huh.
let me get back to my main screen here. Where are we at? Okay, so for that kind of shoe, you you have just the rubber bottom shape, right? And literally, I mean, this classic Nike waffle, right? The reason it's shaped this way is because he made it off a waffle machine. They really did that. Um,
Yeah.
but if you start with that flat piece of rubber, and then the
Uh-huh.
EVA, you just cut the outline shape that you want, and then the trick here, if you're doing it yourself, is how to profile from the heel to the toe, right? And there's a couple ways to do that. One is just to start stacking up thinner layers, and then you can get your profile made, right? And then you could literally with a die grinder shape the midsole yourself, right? So that's how that classic style was made with actually very little equipment. That was the merit. That was what was so cool about that, the Cortez style, right? Is because you didn't have to have a molding equipment. So you could get any piece of flat rubber to make your sole and your midsole, because EVA is so easy to shape, right? With hand tools or grinding stone, or
Uh-huh.
even just a box cutter to make it, and then the upper just sits right on top of it. And that's a little bit where, if you look up your lasting technique, there's board lasting where the upper comes around. Actually, let me show you what that looks like here. Um, this is a board lasted shoe
Uh-huh.
where the upper material wraps around, so that if you're just sitting right on top of the EVA, you don't see the sort of the nasty edge of it. It just sits right down on it, right? Versus if it's a strobo shoe, you have that zigzag stitching around the outside, where you need to have the outsole cup it to cover the seam where it attaches, right? And that's basically sort of the most basic part of shoemaking, is how are you going to finish the upper, right? Are you gonna stitch a bottom onto it and that's how you close it, or are you going to wrap the leather underneath or the mesh underneath? And if you're working at home, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna make it like this, right? The little part of the, and even actually, this is part of which I think, it breaks my heart a little bit when people custom make an Air Jordan 1 that they board last it like this, and then they fill this inside with chopped up cork, and because that's the way that a classic dress shoe is made. Or once you've made to this way, and the upper is all shaped, and people hate to do this, you take a knife and you cut all this bottom off, and then you sew on just a flat piece of fabric, because that's how they would make it in the factory. But a lot of times you've just spent days making this beautiful upper, and the last thing you want to do is to cut it. But that actually makes it sit nice and low. But again, if you're doing it by yourself and you're hand making with mesh, hey, you can just, mesh is thin. You can just wrap it under and glue it down, and you're okay, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's an interesting challenge. Like I said, if you can get to Etsy, and I know there's people that have more running type shoes, or hey, this kind of a shoe right here, go get a donor shoe, right? Go buy one, and just, this type of shoe, it's easy to slice it off, right?
It's like a reverse engineering.
Absolutely. And I say this to my students all the time. Stand on the shoulders of giants, right? I mean, Nike made this shoe, 30 years ago. You can learn a lot by taking a secondhand pair out of your closet and cutting them open. I mean, we made a whole book that was just cutting shoes apart. And, my wife was really angry. You spent how much money buying shoes and cutting them apart? Yes, but look, it's
It's part of the hobby.
yeah, I mean, that's part of, learning the whole thing, and then, seeing what they did, right? So, um, you know, even when I have a pair of shoes, even though I've worn them for 2 years, and I can't just throw them in the bin. I actually have to open it first before, right? So, okay, Mike, you've been very patient. What can we do? What's on your mind? Hey, oh, uh-oh, we can't hear you so well.
I try to maybe. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. My question is like, okay, I got into shoes because I couldn't find stuff that I like to wear, and I'm in the athletic shoes. I'm a former athlete, and you like to. I got it. I did from a friend. I play basically football, basketball, things like that. Track. He asked me about why don't you take your soccer shoes? Because I've been doing different shoes. So I didn't know but he's a coach. So he brought his shoes over and showed me different types of shoes that clicks which ones to wear. I didn't know anything, so he explained. So I came with based on the shoes that I saw. I went to toy stores looking at soccer shoes, looking at the bottom, and how they're styled. So I took one like I picture.
Hey, Mike. Hey, hey, Mike. I'm really sorry. We really can't hear you. Something's wrong with your connection. If you wanna try to type your question in, and I'll do my best to answer it. Sorry about that. Yeah, bad signal. Too bad. But yeah, go ahead. Type your question in, and I'll be happy to answer it. All right. Hey, we can go back to the top. Hey, actually, while you're working on your question, I'm gonna just take a second, and I think most of you folks you've been to the Shoemakers Academy website. You bought the books. Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Um, Definitely. We've seen that we've added the How to Start Your Own Shoe Business course just recently. And here's the good news, bad news. The good news is that the all access pass is still $999. The bad news is it's only going to be that way for about 4 more days because we've added this big course onto it, and now it's up to about 100 and some hours of lecture. So the price is going to go up. No, sorry, 100. Did I say 100 hours? No, sorry, 100 lessons and about 35 hours of instruction. Um, and then we just added the how to start your own shoe business course, and that's another 10 hours that we added onto it. So like I said, the bad news is the price is going up. The good news is it's for a couple more days. You'll still be able to buy it if you're interested. If you have any questions about any of the courses or how to sign up or what you get, just feel free to ask me. And this is the other thing too. If you're interested in any of these courses and you've already bought books or something else, basically you say, hey, we'll deduct the cost of anything you've already bought from the cost of the course. Just send us an email and we'll help you with that. Okay. So, because the goal of this is to help, get this material into the hands of as many people as possible, and to, we're not trying to make $1 million. We got a son in Boise. That's it. That's all we're trying to do is get him through Boise State, and also just share as much of this information as we can. I mean, again, my goal is to help everyone have an adventure in footwear. Like sounds like Al's adventure making saddles. Okay, you had a great adventure doing something, and now you want to share it. So that's kind of my attitude. So again, if you're interested and you have any questions, just let me know. Go ahead.
I was just curious whether the DIY shoemaking class that you're going to offer, is that specifically sneakers or is that other kinds of shoes as well?
We haven't made it yet, and so many people have been interested in just sneakers. So it's probably because the materials we have on hand are basically sort of sneaker based. So generally looking at sneakers, however, the techniques are the same, right? And this is kind of like a French technique for cooking. Once you learn that, you can make anything, right? So, and that's kind of where when you start to talk about board lasting versus strobo lasting and how a shoe goes together, and that's a little bit where once you learn how to stir the sauce, it doesn't matter whether you're making ballerina shoes or you're making hiking boots, right? The decision process and the procedure, once you have the last in your hand, it's just about the same. So, but I'm going to put that in. What would you like to know, actually, now that we're asking these questions?
I'm curious about more like fashion kind of
Okay.
shoes, and
Yeah.
I think I had seen at some point that maybe you were going to offer a course on women's shoemaking.
Yes, it says that we're doing a book on women's shoemaking, and boy, we got off track.
Well, and I mean, you also have a strong following for the stuff that you're already
Yeah, no,
offering.
no, you're absolutely right
That
though.
was in the offing.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I talk to sneakerheads all day long, but also there's so many folks that are interested in women's fashion shoes, and I've helped some clients with that type of shoe before. So we do have some material for that, and I know some really talented designers that work on that kind of shoe too. So thanks for asking. Okay, Mike, I have an LCC. I've designed an indoor soccer shoe, and I want to get it made. Awesome. We can do that, Mike. I'm glad you asked that question. You've got a logo design and the shoe's been drawn. Okay, Mike, first thing you need to do is go get the book, How to Start Your Own Shoe Company. If you've got that book, in your hands, you're way ahead of the game. I'm happy to get on a call with you and look at what you made, because soccer shoe is something that we know how to do. Actually, I've done just in the past 2 years have done 2 different soccer shoe programs, not indoor, outdoor shoe. Yeah, I mean, an indoor soccer shoe is a sneaker. So yeah, we can help you with that. Yeah, definitely. if you have the book, How to Start Your Own Shoe Company, great. The download is $20. It's going to save you $20,000 if you read it carefully. So, and then of course, if you're interested in, we have a course that's exactly this subject, and in the book covers it all. Covers, basically when you're going to start your own shoe company, and this is Harley, you're getting to this phase right now too, where you've got a sample, right? How do I take that shoe and make it into a business, right? And a lot of that is, what's the mathematics behind it, right? How much if I buy it for? How am I going to get it to the United States? What quantity? How much the equipment's going to cost? All that backup, right? And this is, and I'm gonna jump over here, and this is from, oops, hello, psychedelic. Um, uh, this is part of the course, and basically you need a plan, right? And someone say, great, what's a plan, right? What's a business plan look like for footwear? Well, here's the answer. The plan is lots of little plans, right? So first thing is, what's your brand identity, right? Why does, and Mike, this is the same question for you, right? Why does your product or brand need to exist? What's special about your brand? Okay. Number two is, what's the product plan? What are you going to make? Right. And this is also where one shoe is not a company. And where if you're going to go through the effort to design an outsole, then you should design 2 or 3 different uppers, right? And this is Harley, to your question, like, hey, it took a year and a half to make one. Man, they took too long, right? If you're gonna start a business, right, and you want to get, if you're gonna do the effort to create a brand identity and create a website and bring people to your property, right? You want to have more for them to look at, right? And this is where I would say, hey, depending, this is, for example, hey, high top, low top, do a couple different colors, right? Because you want to be able to give either a buyer or a customer a chance to say no 4 times, and then still have that fifth option so they buy something, right? But if you just make one shoe, okay, if you're Crocs, one shoe, yeah, okay, no problem. But for the rest of us, you've got to spread it around a little bit. Okay, what's your financial plan? When I say a financial plan, meaning how much is it, get your design, get the price quotation based on, right? Do I want to make $700 custom made Western boots? Or do I want to make $99 basketball shoes that everybody can afford, right? And you need to work backwards into that financial plan to understand, hey, if a container of shoes costs $5,000 to ship, right, and the duty rate on that shoe is 8%, and the factory price is $30, okay, and I know I have to buy maybe 1 container load or 2,000 pairs worth. How does that all add up, right? So that's the financial plan, right? What does the number really look like? And then once you have the financial plan, then you go to the capital plan, which is, where's that money going to come from, right? And then not just where's it going to come from, but how much do you need? But not how much do you need at the end of the process? How much do you need all along the way? And this is where when you're doing a development process, if you come to me and say, Wade, I want to make a sample, I would say, great. It probably cost you $2,500, and that's your sort of first step. Is, okay, we now have a shoe in our hands. If we want to take it to the next step, how much money does that take? And so in those first few steps, you might only be looking at $5,000 or $6,000, and then you could still say, okay, or you've went and found investors and you can really open it up and then buy all the equipment, spend the marketing, build a website, all that stuff, right? So when someone says, hey, sorry,
Yeah. You also cover how to look for investors.
yes,
How to go
yes,
about.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
This is all your This is the business plan.
Yep, yeah. This is this stuff is basically covered in the book, but it's also covered in depth in the course. And in the book, if you start with the book and move on to the course because it goes deep. And it also, in part of this financial plan and capital plan, like in the book and in the course, we talk about import duty for like 10 or 15 minutes. There's a course on duty that's 3 hours, right? Because, depending on how you design your shoe, it's either going to cost, 0% to import it or 37.5 plus 90 cents. Depends on how you design the shoe, right? So tricky stuff. So, but that's covered in the book. It's covered. Actually, it's actually covered in almost all the books in a little bit. Okay, so and then manufacturing plan, right? Getting it developed. Who's going to make it, right? How are you going to get the shoes to your country, wherever you're at? Where are you going to make it, right? Because you might, if you're Jose, maybe you can make it in Brazil. If you're Scott, or sorry, if you're Al, you're going to make it yourself, right? If you're me in San Diego, then I'm going to try to find a way to get it made in the Far East. So that's your sort of manufacturing plan. And of course, your sales plan. What are you going to do? Are you going to make a website? Are you going to go try to get Dick's Sporting Goods to buy it? Are you going to, talk to independent shoe stores? Depending on what kind of shoe you're making, there's lots of different ways to make it. And my first thing is going to say, a website is not a sales plan. A website is a website, right? Okay, now, and the next part is distribution plan. And this is one where I've seen this one can go wrong pretty hilariously. But okay, you've ordered a container of shoes. Now what? They arrive, at your house. Are you going to put them in the garage? Are you going to put them in your neighbor's garage? Are you going to put them in the basement? What's your plan for taking those shoe boxes and getting them to your customers? And there's lots of different ways to do that. And then, of course, your marketing plan. And marketing, of course, is where you can spend as much money as there is to try to figure out how to market your plan. But also, when you think about your marketing plan, while you're doing your design plan, right, it'll be clear as to how you're going to do this, right? And then, of course, how you're going to grow, right? What's your goal for your whole business? And then not, I know this whole thing is how to start your own shoe business, but some part of this is like, what's your plan to get in the end? Do you want to make a job for yourself, or do you want to make a brand that somebody can buy, or make a design that you can sell, right? And if you it's interesting, because I never really thought about exit plans until I really met with a sort of a high dollar investor, and he's like, I want to start a brand and I want to be in it for 5 years and I want to get out. Like, okay, well, if you're going to get out of it, then maybe you don't buy anything, right? What you're trying to build is an IP. So you don't actually ever want to own the manufacturing. You don't want to own a warehouse. You don't want to own a fleet of trucks, right? You just want to have a brand, because when a big brand buys a small shoe company, they just take the design and then everything else they throw away, right? So if you had a team of 30 people working for you, your exit plan would probably mean they all got fired, right? So if you think you're just going to start it for 5 years and try to resell it, maybe you don't hire 30 people. Maybe you just have a contractors instead, right? So anyways, so this is kind of the basic, so I've explained it in 10 minutes. In the course, we talk about this for 10 hours. So yeah, if that doesn't make your brain explode, it might, but that's the idea. And part of the reason for the course is really to just sort of set your expectation for what it really is going to take, right? How long it could take, how much money it's going to take, and all the other things that you're going to need to start your own shoe business. So, and actually, that's one of the things that's been really a lot of fun, is to help people get through these challenges. And as long as they sort of have a plan for each of these things, then you don't run into oh, how are we going to sell these? You already know how you're going to sell it, right? Right? Or if you're making kids shoes, you have to make a shoe that kids like, right? But you have to make a shoe that parents will buy, because that's not the same, right? So your kid shoe has to look cool to get kids interested in it, but your marketing campaign is going to talk about how durable and long lasting and comfortable it is, not that it looks cool, because like I said, kids don't care about the price and how long it lasts or whether it's comfortable. They care what it looks like. Anyways, so I hope this helps. I mean, this is part of the um, when we wrote the book, we just sort of made up two fictionalized accounts. But in the course, and I'll jump down here, we have 9 different brands that we talk about, and these are companies that are all in production now, um, and they all have different stories from how they do their marketing to how they do their capital raise, how they get their shoes made, why they exist, right? So this brand, Antibes, is you're not supposed to run on the heel of the shoe. It's a specialized running shoe. Okay, wild, right? He's created a community of people that are interested in this running technique. So even before the shoe arrived, he's already sort of built a community around people that are looking for this thing. Crossover culture is interesting. They actually, pre-COVID, they were in Foot Locker making sort of Air Jordan high style shoes, which is pretty awesome. Um, which I would say don't do that because that's already done. But they had unique designs and styles, and they were able to compete that way. This brand Flip Rocks, they make fishing sandals for fishing. And who would have thought that sandals for fishermen was a market segment? But if you're just trying to make a small business for yourself, that's cool. If you're trying to make $1 billion, then fishing sandals, maybe not, right? So here, Jose, this is a running shoe brand. And does the world need a running shoe brand? No. The world does not need another running shoe brand. However, these guys own a shoe store in South Africa and they can't get Nike and Adidas anymore. So they decided if they own 2 or 3 different stores, they're going to make their own because they saw a market need for that. These folks make dancing shoes, street dancing shoes, really cool. This guy, his family is the biggest manufacturer of safety harnesses in India, and he doesn't care. That's not what he wants to do. He wants to make cool shoes for Indian singers, so that's what he's doing. And then this is a sandal brand that's actually operated by my wife and her college girlfriends. These girls all kind of got blindsided during COVID, and their jobs, kind of went, and they decided, okay, we're going to get together and we're going to make sandals. And does the world need another sandal brand? No. However, one of these gals used to own a boutique and knows every boutique basically in South Florida and has a relationship with these people. So it's kind of like, hey, I don't have a boutique anymore, but I've got these sandals. Let's do it. So that reason for that brand to exist was actually, it got started anyways with her personal relationship with other boutique owners in Florida. And you're like, wait, is that a good enough reason to start a shoe brand? Yeah, actually, that's pretty good, because if you have a place to sell it and you've got people that are interested in it, then you're there, right? That's a plan. That's half a plan right there. So, anyways, and of course, of these nine different sort of case studies, the money all came from different places, right? They all had different ways. One of these folks has more money than they know what to do with. Family money, they can do whatever they want, and they decide to open a shoe business. Hey, lucky for them. The rest of us, we have to work our tails off to find this money, right? And this is where in your development process, you go piece by piece, right? You make the sample. If you get a good looking sample, that maybe comes out of your own pocket. But now that you have it, you can make a Kickstarter video. You can show it to shoe stores. You can show it to other investors. You can talk it up. You can get people to give you feedback. And if they say, yeah, not sure, then you can go back and make another prototype. And finally, you'll get to that point where you're confident in it, right? So you might have to make a few different pairs of shoes before people say yes, right? Okay. What else can I help you with? Anyone else have any specific questions? I mean, I know we've been an hour, but I'll talk for 9 hours. I love this stuff. So.
Yes. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Or somebody.
Go ahead, Carly.
Yes, my question is regarding when you get a shoe done, how do you showcase it, or how do you pitch it to the market? Because I did come about this website called First Insight. They
Huh.
take your drawings or your shoe, and I guess they do like a kind of analytic kind of thing with your shoe, meaning that they showcase it maybe to stores, and depending on colors, different silhouettes, they kind of get an analytical way of telling you that this is the shoe that is
Oh.
getting more views, and then you have like a better kind of structure where you should design in what kind of style.
Huh. I'll have to take a look at it.
I don't know
I've
if
never.
you know the word. Yeah, so yeah, look it up.
Huh.
It's pretty, and for everybody as well. So it lets you know ahead of time instead of just making one shoe and you don't have no idea
Yeah.
what's gonna sell. They kind of like an analytical kind
Let
of thing.
people vote on it. I mean, and this is one of the things that I think is pretty critical is that when you're doing drawings, and actually the Flip Rocks customer in particular, we did a lot of, they did a lot of drawings. They had a designer that wasn't really a shoe person make a bunch of drawings. And they got people really interested in these kind of wild looking drawings. And it was only later, after much variation, did we finally get what the real shoe looks like. And then they took models out and showed them and took them to fishing shows and got people interested. And they literally, I keep telling people, yeah, right, don't start with one shoe. They actually started with one shoe, and they were really going to fishing shows, and that's where they collected more intelligence about what people are interested in, what they like. And that's sort of the real ground. That's kind of the ground pounding way to do it. Um, but again, if you have a design, and this is a little bit too where if you're closer to your if you're closer to your market, then like I was working with some folks that um, they were making baseball shoes for high school kids pretty much, and there's a whole sort of subculture around that kind of travel team baseball, right? And they go to tournaments. So guess what? Nike doesn't go to these youth baseball tournaments to sell shoes, but these guys do, right? And they get to meet with those customers every weekend that their children are out playing baseball. So they're like, hey, rather than just sit around while our kids play baseball or sit around waiting while they're waiting, we're going to make and sell shoes at these tournaments. So they're exposed to their customer right there firsthand every time. And they could literally go to the thing and hold up a drawing and say, hey, what do you think about this? Okay, I'm going to go back and change it. What do you think about this? Right? So that's a really interesting way that they're in touch with their brand that Nike never is going to do, right? So that's a little bit where go to where your customer is kind of attitude, right? Yeah, and that's where kind of when you look at all these sort of different shoe category or different thing, there's a ton of different ways to market depending on what kind of shoe you're trying to make, right? I hope that helps.
Definitely helps. Thank you.
No worries, man. No worries. Go ahead, Al.
So your book, footwear, pattern making, and last design. It's is it? Yeah, okay. Do you have you order just a size of a shoe that you want, or the shoe you're making, and then you give in that with that book you give a pattern to copy?
The pattern it's just one size. It's not to your size. It just happens to be
Oh,
what the real cut pieces look like, so you can be like, okay, these are all the pieces you need to make a basic sneaker, right? You got it right. Okay.
okay.
I paid her to do that. I paid her to hold up the book and show the pattern
Yeah.
down there.
So what size is that?
It's a size 9. It's a size
Okay,
9.
it's nine.
Yep.
And for which kind of shoes?
It is it's a basically a classic um, New Balance sneaker.
Okay.
I think it's like the 310. I think is what it was. It's been about 5 years since we did that, but hey, that's where, hey Al, this is where if you go on to Etsy and you want to look for patterns, I mean, every classic Nike shoe pattern is out there now. And
And boots also, like we want to make dress boots, lace up dress boots and lace up work boots. Those
you
are
know, good question. That one, I don't know.
There are
But
some patterns and stuff on Etsy for that kind of stuff, but not as much as for sneakers.
I mean, and part of that too is, hey, if you see one that's out there that you like, you buy it and take it apart, right?
yeah.
And
I
or
make a lot of patterns. Make a lot of patterns with what I do.
yeah, right. I mean, leather, saddle pattern, the same thing. You look at a picture and you make your own pattern, right? And, hey, everyone thinks that there's magic to footwear pattern making.
So
As long as you have the last in your hands, then you can make the pattern, right? And it's going to take a little bit of experimentation, right? Um, you know, hey Al, I know you can take a Western boot making class. I know they're out there. In fact, there's probably more. I was going to say 2 years ago there was probably more Western boot making courses than there were sneaker, but now I bet it's the other way around. There's probably 100 sneaker courses and 5 boot making courses, but
they're online.
yeah, no, I mean you got to basically go,
Oh, yeah, I know about some of those.
Yeah, yeah, they're not cheap. I mean that's the trick and that's part of why we do all our stuff by video on demand is because hey, people, if I wanted to go take I'd love to go. The people at Astoria, they have awesome classes. They do some in Detroit and they do this awesome program in Italy. How am I going to get to Italy?
Hitchhike.
Yeah, right. Flap my wings really hard and then tell my boss that I'm going to be gone for 6 months, So.
I mean, it seemed to work for Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, see, right. He
Why not
did
for the
it.
rest of us?
Yeah, he did it. Right. He did it. Hey, Mike, I'm sorry your connection didn't work, but hey, you know what? Just shoot me an email and we'll have a phone conversation. This.
I see he asked if he should try to make his shoe in different color
Oh
combinations.
yeah. Yeah. Hey, of course. I think. Well, here's how we generally do that. When we set out to make your first tech pack, I generally do one color, but one that if your shoe has a lot of panel breaks, you design one colorway that shows what the shoe can do, right? Because so I worked for a skateboard shoe company for a lot of time, and we know that half the shoes we made were just black. Didn't matter, black suede. But you would never sample it that way because it doesn't take any imagination, If you've got lots of panels, then go ahead and make the color a little bit more wild or something just to show the capability of the color break of the pattern. And then you can do a black suede one later on. So, but hey, that's where to get your Illustrator drawing out or your pencil, make 100 drawings. Just start with one, and then once you get the shoe in your hands, when you get to that second phase, because I mean, after you make sort of the first one, the second one is when you actually go and you start to make the actual outsole for it, right? And that's where it becomes a lot easier for the factory to sort of mass produce, half a dozen colorways, right? And sometimes the factory will be like, you want 10 colors? How about 3, right? Now, if you're Nike and you want to order 100 colors, no problem. 100 is what you got. If you're a small brand getting started and you ask for 100 colors, they're going to say, sure, send us $10,000. But if you just want, say, 3 or 4 or 5, no problem, no problem. And that's a little bit of where, when you're starting out, you kind of have to navigate a little bit about, about what the factory will do for you, right? A big factory in China, for example, they leave some space aside for small brands, right? Nike could take 98% of their business, but if you're not looking for the next brand, that extra 2% that Nike's not using, you should put somebody else in there because somebody gave Phil Knight a chance, right? And then what happened, right? So somebody gave, Royal Elastics a chance, right? Or any of those small brands, right? Somebody gave them a chance. And usually it's like your production window might be those 3 hours, on Friday afternoon when all the other shoes are done and your production starts at 2 and your 300 pairs get done in one afternoon. That's kind of what happens. I mean, even a small factory assembly line will make 1,000 pairs in one day. So if you have a 500 pair order, it gets made before lunch. It's done. Now, it takes a month to get to that point where they put it together, in one day. But that's kind of how fast it happens, right? Well, folks, unless anyone else has any questions, we are gonna do this again on Saturday, and then again, hey, I love to hear your story and help you with your challenge and basically get you to the next step, right? And of course, we have lots of stuff, right? So in your case, Mike, yeah, go get that first book, get started. Harley, similar thing. You actually may be ready for the next step beyond that, or if you haven't had the green book, How to Start Your Own Shoe Company, get that one right away, and that'll help you. Oh, you got it, Jose. Awesome. Okay, yeah, Harley. If you haven't read that book, you should get that one. And then,
No, I have it. PDF.
oh, you have it. Okay, perfect. Yeah, perfect. Hey, man, save money. Yeah, perfect. You might be ready for the course. Just and that's kind of where how you're going step by step, right? And if you have just questions, just don't hesitate to ask me. Or hey, we'll see you on Saturday, and if anyone else, if that's it, then hey, thanks for coming by. We appreciate it. We want to help you any way we can.
Thank you.
And good luck on your projects. And hey, if you get to a roadblock, just give me an email. Love to help you with your project. And I really enjoy meeting you folks and helping you get these things going. So, I mean, you can tell how excited I am about making shoes. I know it's kind of weird, but I've had such a great adventure making footwear and being creative and making stuff. So, you know, go ahead, Al.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
This supplier that's gonna wants me to make boots for him.
Mm-hmm.
He wants me to sew the uppers. Then he's gonna sell a whole kit for a person who's interested in building some shoes.
Huh. Okay.
With the last with the bottom materials, and then they're gonna last it and build it themselves. That's his idea of marketing a boot. One of the ways. So do you think these folks are asking about getting a shoe made? You think there's a market for a guy like us? We're not really big, so that we're not all that busy either.
To make a kit like that.
Well, I'll make a kit or say, hey, I want this shoe, and then say, for instance, Harley sends me his cutout pattern, and I sew it, I build it, I last it, I send it back.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, any way to make it happen, man. I mean, that's the thing. Once you have a shop, any way you can bring business in. Actually, the idea about making a kit, we've sort of messed around with that and decided. I mean, if you look on our website, I'll just show you what we'd sort of done here. And this maybe can give you an insight is for what you can do is we basically have kind of everything you need except let me
The leather.
exactly. And the reason we don't have that is because I don't know what people want, right? So that's kind of where here's the outsole, here's all the hard to find guts inside that you might have a difficult time getting, but the actual leather or mesh or whatever you want to make the outer part out of it, that's you go find that. I'm not going to try to guess what people want to make their shoes out of. So that's kind of what we did, and part of it was like, let's just haul up the stuff that's hard to find, right? What's the heel counter material supposed to be unless you're going to make it out of leather, right? How do you get super tough or a lasting board? Some of that stuff's not so easy to find. So that's kind of how we did it. Go ahead, man.
I have a question. Wade, right? Your name's
Yeah, Wade.
right?
Yeah.
Wade. Do you and the tools? Do you offer the clay? It's just because I do like to create my own outsoles, and I do it in 3D as well. But sometimes it's nice to kind of like build. Do you offer the clay to, because I seen designers they use
Oh,
they don't know the 3D software, they use clay as another way
yeah,
of
just to hand make it, right?
do you offer that as well or no?
No, but that stuff go on Amazon. Plastilina, we use in school. We use called plastilina. We use
Okay.
that. Um,
Or you can buy monster clay.
okay, monster clay, good. Here's
Also
another.
clay.
There's a material called Instamorph, and
It's more
it's actually what's cool about it is it's plastic, but its melting temperature is just about boiling water. So you can basically heat it up with a heat gun or boiling water, push it into shape, and then it sets. Not quite rock hard, but really hard. So it basically you can actually machine it. Drill it, grind it, whatever, and then when you heat it again, it gets soft again. So it's kind of an interesting material. Like when
what's the name again? I'm sorry, what was the name again?
Instamorph.
It's the morph.
But
Okay.
the same thing on Amazon. There's about a dozen different people that sell these kind of heat moldable plastic. And the other we haven't done it yet, but we've sort of been. I've been thinking about it is to buy. It might cost $50 to buy a big bunch of it, but if you bought that, you could literally pack a shoe with it and make it last. And if it's not quite right, you just hit it with a heat gun and shape it. So it's a pretty cool material just because you can, if you screw up, you can just dip it in a bowl of water and it melts again.
Yeah, I seen also card designers they use that kind of mold or
Yeah,
that clay.
yeah, use that kind of clay for sure,
Okay, good
for
to know.
sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean that's part of if you have a last and you even have a lasted upper on it or whatever, and you just put clay on it and you can make that outsole by hand. Yeah, I mean, actually, we did that in design school and we made a plaster cast. I mean, that's how we made outsole out of liquid rubber. I mean, it was an awful mess, but that's kind of how we did it. But yeah, that was a no one told us that was not the way to do it, but it worked in the end. Anyways. Well, okay, folks. Hey, really appreciate meeting you, and if I can help you in any way, it's my pleasure. And again, we're going to do this again Saturday morning. So if you have more questions, just come on by.
Wait, thank you for your time.
Yeah, my
Thanks,
pleasure.
George.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.